Hello, Annie Collins here for Imagine Crafts Beginner Guide. Today we'll be creating two projects using one stamp and a variety of Imagine Craft products. This is card 1, so let's get started. For our cards today, we'll be using a Technique Tuesday clear stamp of a poinsettia with a variety of sentiments. For card 1, we'll be pulling in an acrylic block. I'm placing my image onto my block, and I'm decided I'm going to stamp my image on the lower left and my sentiment on the upper right of my card front panel. I'm going to use rhubarb stalk, bamboo leaves, and new sprout of Memento dewdrop inks. I will have those listed in the description box below. I love these because they're perfect for going in and adding several colors of ink onto one image. I start out with the red, which is the rhubarb, onto the poinsettia leaves, and then I'll move on using the bamboo leaves onto the pine sprouts, or pine sprigs I should say, and new sprout onto our leaves. Now, I did get a little bit of the rhubarb onto my leaves, which is fine because I use a microfiber cloth and clear away any of the ink I might have gotten onto my leaves or sprigs. If you do not have a microfiber cloth, you can use a baby wipe or a damp paper towel. Now, here we are adding the bamboo leaves to the pine sprigs, and we'll repeat the process with the new sprout onto our leaves. If you have a hard time seeing where your image is because it's clear, you can always refer back to your stamp packaging. New sprout onto our leaves. I love these Memento dewdrop inks because of their shape. They're perfect for getting into all those little nooks and crannies and adding layers to your images. For instance, here I'm going to layer in some of the bamboo leaf color ink to my leaves because I want to darken them closer, creating sort of a shadow onto them. So I have the lighter new sprout towards the top and the darker bamboo leaves closer to the poinsettia. We're going to place our image down here, and we're going to gently walk our fingers across the acrylic block firmly, but not so hard that we distort our image. Now, the great thing about acrylic stamps and blocks is that you can see through them. This way, if you miss a spot, you can line it up and press down, and now your image is completely stamped. I've chosen my sentiment, but before I stamp it, I'm going to clean off my image of my poinsettia using Stays On multi-purpose ink cleaner, which is by Imagine Crafts. Then I'm going to pull my sentiment, line it up on my acrylic block, and I like to use an acrylic block with grid lines. It makes it easy to line up your images and your sentiments. Now I'm going to pull in some VersaFine pigment ink in onyx black, and I'm going to stamp directly onto my card panel, making sure I have enough ink covered onto my sentiment, and I'm going to line it up on the top right and press down. I love VersaFine because it's a detailing ink, so it's great for not only stamping directly onto your card panel, but you could also use it for embossing because the ink stays wet a little bit longer. Now to build our card, I'm going to pull in my card base and a layering cardstock in green to coordinate with our card. This layering cardstock is 65 pounds in weight. I'm using Imagine Crafts tear tape, double adhesive tear tape. You can expose the adhesive by pulling back on the release paper or the release backing paper. I'm going to apply this tape to all 4 sides of my card panel here, or my layering panel I should say. And this is my tip. I only expose the corners of my tape because I have a hard time lining things up, and this makes it easy where once I get it where I want, I press on the corners of the exposed area, and then I pull on the rest of the release backing paper, press down firm, and now my panel is adhered. I repeat this process onto the card front panel. Again, the tear tape on all sides, only exposing the corners, And once I have it where I need it, got a little overzealous on the release tape there, I move the release backing. For our card panel, I'm leaving a little bit of a border all the way around, which is about 1/4 inch. Get it centered, pull on those release papers, press down, and our image is set. However, you can leave your card as is. I wanted to add a little something extra, and I pulled in a gel pen to add a little dot detail to the center of my poinsettia, as well as the leaves and the pine sprigs. This is completely optional, but it's a good way, or a nice way, to make the stamp your own, or the image your own, I should say. By adding little details like this, you change it just enough. I went ahead and added it, and now your card can be finished at this point. But I want to add just a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and pull in some jewels and my on-point glue. Imagine Craft's on-point glue is perfect to add little embellishments like sequins or jewels like I'm using today, because of its precision point applicator. Here I'm pulling out two of each color, 2 gold and 2 red, as accents for our card. I'm going to also use a jewel placement tool. See what I'm talking about, this nice thin applicator? It helps you add just a small amount of dot of glue, and then you can place your jewels right on top without it overflowing everywhere. Now if I can just get my jewel to come off my jewel applicator, it'd be great. Again, you put your little bit on, press your jewels into it, and I also love that the glue is clear. And now your card is finished. The only dimensional part of this card is our jewels, and card 1 is complete. On to card 2. We're going to use again the same stamp, the same colored dewdrops for our card, but this time we're going to use our dewdrops to color in our image. Now we start off placing the image of our flower into a stamp positioning tool. Reason why I'm doing this is because I want to stamp my image twice to get a nice crisp dark black image. We're going to use our VersaFine pigment ink to do this because it won't run with water. I'm gently patting on the ink. I'm going to press it on. Now the stamp positioner is similar to your acrylic block. It's clear, it's got grid lines, you can see through it, so you know where you're working, where your work surface is. And the base is magnetic. Also, you can do the same thing. If you miss a spot, ink it up your area, press again firm, but not so hard to distort your image. Same concept. And there we go. Our image is stamped. Now we're going to use StazOn cleaner, the StazOn multi-purpose cleaner, to clean our image. The StazOn cleaner has a dab applicator that you can rub across your stamps. Use your microfiber cloth or baby wipe and wipe off the extra cleaner. I'm going to set this aside so we can get started on coloring our image. I pulled in the same colored ink, the rhubarb stark, the new sprout, and the bamboo leaves. I'm also working on a craft mat because I'll be using these, pressing my ink straight onto the mat along with a watercolor brush and some water to watercolor our image today. I'm using a number 2 brush, dipping it in water, getting a little bit of the excess water off, and just dipping it into the color. I'm just going to create a watercolor with it. As you can see, the black ink is not running because it's a pigment ink. And I start with the rhubarb towards the base, and then I'm going to add the rose towards the top. so I can get a two-tone. Right now it doesn't appear it, but once I add my next layer, you can start seeing it's getting darker. I'm also going to pull in some of this sweet plum. It's a purple. It's a purpley color because if you look at poinsettias, they have a little bit of a purple veining. So I'm just going to cross where the vein or the detail in the image is. This stamp is perfect for that because it has all these little details done for you. So you know exactly where to add your shadowing when you're watercoloring or using any other coloring medium. I'm using the bamboo leaves for our pine sprigs, coloring it in, and I'll use the new sprout for our leaves. I'm just press again the ink onto my work mat and just color it in. This is simple and easy. It's what I call foolproof watercoloring. You look like an expert with very little effort. What I also like about Memento inks, because these are dye inks, you can add the water and use them to watercolor. So if you do not have a lot of coloring materials, markers, pencils, etc., you can use your inks to color your images. Now to create our card. We're going to have our card base, our layering panel, an extra piece of specialty paper, and foam tape. We're going to fussy cut our image, only a portion of it up. So we're going to cut the bottom half. I'm going to decide where I want, and I'm going to fussy cut it away the bottom. So I saved you the heartache of watching me fussy cut. And as you can see, I kept the bottom because we're going to layer this specialty gold paper, foil paper, on top. So I'm lining it up so make sure I know where I'm going to be set. And I'm going to using again the Memento tear tape. Not the Memento tear tape, the Imagine Crafts tear tape. I'm using some foam adhesive on the back of our image and our bottom that we just added the specialty paper. So I'm going to leave a small edge all the way around. I'm figuring out my placement, make sure I like where it's going to be. Trimmed off any extra paper. And I'm just barely placing my bottom portion of the paper here, of the cardstock, so I can line everything up. I get it where I want it to go on the top. I do the same thing for the bottom, get it straightened out. So I have a nice even border all the way around. Yes, this is a little bit more fussy, but it's worth it in the end with the impact you get with that nice touch of gold. This is a way to add a nice little extra without having to have a lot of supplies on hand. Now, I cut out some strips for our sentiment. I'm going to use the VersaFine again detail ink in Onyx Black for our sentiment. This time I'm going with Season's Greetings, and I cut out these fishtail banners to put our sentiment on. I did one from the white, and I did one with the same specialty gold paper, showing you can layer them just to have a little bit of gold showing through, or stack them as I'm going to do and show a little bit more. I'm using some Imagine Crafts tear tape here. I'm adhering my two banners together. I'm going to measure more or less where I want. Now I eyeball it, but you can use a pencil to mark. I trimmed away the excess, again the on point glue, and our jewels, this time in red and 2 shades of green, to decorate our card. This card has more dimension because we used our foam adhesive, but still perfect beginner card. And we used the same stamp and the same inks. One we did direct stamp on it, and the other one we colored with used the inks to color our image. I'll have all the details and links in the description box below. Thank you so much for spending your day with me today, and I hope you continue to follow us here on Imagine Crafts. If you like the content, give us a thumbs up. If you want to see more content, subscribe to the channel. Following, you'll have some other videos that you can find for more inspiration. Thank you. This has been Annie Collins from Imagine Crafts.